Thanks for listening to the Joy FM. I'm Jules. There is a town in our state that has over 40 nations there, and it's actually called sometimes the most diverse square mile in the United States. The town is called Clarkston. And tonight I have Bill Johnson. Now, he's a pastor of a church called Reach the Nations Community Church in Clarkston. Bill, thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome, Jules. Glad to be here.
Now, tell us about this town that we have here in our state that a lot of us might not know about.
Right. We have the best and worst food in the state.
In Clarkston?
Yep. It's Clarkston, Georgia, about 3 miles west of Stone Mountain.
Okay.
And it's a town of over 40-something nationalities, like you mentioned. I think there's 70-plus languages in the high school.
Wow.
Very diverse, very multicultural, and it's who would have thought it would have ever taken place in Georgia?
Right here.
Right.
So you're an international missionary, basically,
Pretty much,
right here in your home state.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Is there a typical refugee story, how they get here?
Yeah, so a refugee will arrive here having come from country number 2. They fled from country number 1. They resettled, camped down in country number 2, 2 years, 7 years, sometimes 20 years, run by the UN. They get refugee status. They're resettled and flown to the U.S., country number 3.
Wow.
And from there, they're greeted with a caseworker. Casework usually lasts from these agencies about 90 days. And then after that, they're pretty much on their own. That caseworker's there to help them find a job, find employment, learn basic things. But how do you do that in 90 days?
Right. Because a lot of these people are coming from villages.
Oh yeah, villages. They're coming from countries that are very, very different than ours. The clothing's different. The language is different. The customs and culture are different. It's a strange new world for them.
Yeah, and I can only imagine that probably sets them up for to be taken advantage of.
Very much, very much. We see it all the time with tax preparations. We see it with medical things that happen. People that internet scams and things like that. But we see them. Even in law enforcement. Unfortunately, we see a lot of injustice towards refugees. Yeah, it sets them up a lot.
Yeah.
They're very vulnerable.
Yeah, so a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles for them to overcome. And then you have planted a church a number of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like
about 7 years ago.
Okay. The church is called the Reach the Nations Community Church. And coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to hear just how diverse this church is.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Jules here for the Joy FM, and we're talking with Bill Johnson. He's a pastor of a church called Reach the Nations Community Church in Clarkston, and we've just learned about, why Clarkston is so unique, and that's because all these nations are coming right here to our state. And Bill, it's exciting to see that God is at work, that he's doing this. This is not just happened.
It's God's work. It's God's work. You can go back and read Acts 17, verse 26, 27. You'll see, how God's got his hand in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And now you're discipling refugees who have come here, not by chance, and seeing them now go back to their country with the gospel.
Absolutely.
And baptizing people and planting churches. I mean, that's exciting.
It's very exciting. It's a bit scary sometimes, but that's what we're seeing, and that's the heart of our church. And I think that's what God's purpose is in bringing them here.
Mm-hmm. But you need churches and God's people to come alongside you.
We would not be where we are without the 2,000 plus volunteers that have come and served with us at Reach the Nations Community Church. The volunteers, the partner churches that have committed to us, helping us serve. Church plants, we all have a goal of becoming self-sufficient. In a refugee area, you're going to need a long runway to get that plane off the ground. And so we need partners and we need help. And there's lots of ways that they can do that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tell us about Mission 24.
Yeah.
Because this is a great way that if you have no international experience, you've never maybe even shared your faith.
Oh, man. Yeah. You will go around the world in 24 hours. I guarantee you that. So Mission 24 is just that. It's a 24-hour mission trip. You come on a Friday night. You stay. You'll be visiting people. You'll get a tour of the town. Probably eat international food. Then you're up the next morning, Your breakfast and lunch are provided. You're doing everything from evangelism to a ministry project to helping with a backyard Bible club. You're doing just a blast of missions in 24 hours. Saturday, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you're done, and it's a 24-hour thing. And a lot of churches are coming and they do that just to get their feet wet. Yeah. They say, we want to see what it's like. We don't know if we want to come for a week, or we don't know if we want to partner, but we want to come for 24 hours and we'll take care of you and show you the world.
Bill, yeah. I know, we were talking about how exciting it is to see God at work and know He's at work and see people from all these different countries come to the Lord.
Absolutely.
But I know at times it can be very challenging. So how can we be praying for you and for your church and for your people?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ways you can pray for us is just to have the grace, for God to give us the grace to raise up leaders from other countries and have the grace to do that in a cross-cultural way. It's obvious we can't do what we do long-term without other leaders that speak those languages, know those cultures, that are in our congregation. But communicating with them requires something that I have to learn. It's not something I'm necessarily born with or that my culture teaches me. I have to get in their culture. So pray for that. Pray that we would keep the main thing, and that's be driven biblically, that our vision would be biblical. Evangelism, discipleship, and missions. That's what we want. And so we don't have to have the biggest church in the world, but if we are planting and we are reaching out in other areas, I think that's the kingdom's work. Yeah. And so that's what we want.
Bill, I just always appreciate you coming in and sharing and just hearing how God is at work. Exciting.
That's so amazing.
Exciting. Bill is on my next podcast, and I would love for you to hear it because there's so much more of God's story and so much more that we just don't have time to tell you right now. So I highly encourage you to go to thejoyfm.com/Jules and click on Bill Johnson and listen to how God is at work. Bill, thanks so much for being with us and being on the podcast too.
Hey, you're welcome, Jules. Thanks for having me.